Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Desk and Sports Radio on a beautiful Wednesday night, April 29th. If anybody is out and about, hope you're safe and wherever you are, in this time of crisis. But we have our good friend Jeff Richgels, who writes for a lot of things in Wisconsin, 11'sframe.com. He does for bowling, and he used to also bowls too whenever bowling alleys open up, like myself, because I think I want to go bowl when one of the lanes open up there, Jeff. So just talk about what is the state like in Wisconsin, with the lockdown and all that stuff.
Yep, we've been locked down since that starting on that weekend of March 16, and by the time it was the next Tuesday, we were down to 10 or less, and right away then after that we call it. I think our governor calls it safer at home is his thing, but it's the same stuff. Lockdown, nothing going on. Just now starting to open up a few things in a very limited way. Not anywhere near, let's say, George doing. Bowling centers, for example, are not open, but we're allowing people to golf again, reopen some of the state parks, curbside of almost any business, like even dog groomers, for example, and that sort of thing. But nothing yet that would allow bowling to return. So we don't, the bowling centers here, the best they can do is carry out food and alcohol. So that's it.
Yeah, you can't carry on any bowling pins, so you got to keep it there in the bowling center, right? Like, can I have one? But I saw you. I saw Georgia is opening up bowling alleys, like you just said, and others little states doing here and there. You think that's safe with all this stuff going on with this virus? Like, do you feel like they should be waiting until the all clear, or you just feel like everybody's trying to be the first one open?
Well, it's. I think it's pretty instructive that you've seen some of the bowling centers down there just refusing to open because there just isn't enough mass to really make it the bowling business model requires a lot of people close together, especially leagues, and you want your open bowling, you want a lot of people in there. So I think bowling's business model doesn't quite fit where it's not a big deal if you stay closed. It's not like you're going to get a huge amount of revenue when you do open, but at the same time, you do want to try and open. And I have seen that for the most part, they've been, following a lot of social distancing with limited numbers of people in there and limits on, like every other lane or pair in use, the kind of things you would think to be logical. Haven't seen temperature checks at the door, haven't seen masks required. Costco today, I saw required masks nationwide of everyone, including customers. So those are kind of some of the issues that bowling centers will have to work through, and it's to their advantage to, I think, be as cautious and safe if they want to attract a larger customer base. Because there's going to be lots of people. I'm going to be 58 this summer. I'm going to be very cautious about you. My girlfriend's almost that old. We won't say how close.
She's already 39. She's already 39.
If we were 27, 28, that age group, I would have almost no hesitation about going out and just being, generally safe and not think much of it, because even if you did catch it, the odds are so low for anything to happen. But at our age, we're starting to get up in the high risk category. So I'm going to be more cautious, and we don't have that choice right now. But in evaluating, once we have that choice, what we're going to do, we'll have to take a lot of things into consideration. And we like to go to casinos, and I don't see us doing that short of a vaccine or herd immunity, or at least like today we saw remdesivir. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it. The Gilead drug getting some great clinical results announced today. So treatment drugs that are going to make this more of a disease that knocks you down like the flu does, and perhaps not so devastating and potentially fatal. Those are the kind of things. Once those happen, things can start to return more to normal.
Yeah. Well, speaking of normal, today the Professional Bowlers Tour, Tom Clark, we're going to have on at 8:45 this evening here on Herbert Fence Sports Radio, and the CEO of the other, who bought the bowling. They came out saying the PBA League is going to be a virtual draft, and sometime in May, I think it was like May 15th or something around there, and they have two new teams, one in Milwaukee and Vegas. So, are you bowling in the Milwaukee one?
Am I bowling? I'm not good, and I'm not even eligible for the draft. That's for the tour stars.
Yeah.
Certainly interested in things, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I mean, the draft, I think, May 17th, Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central. The big question to me is the PBA League is all about Bayside Bowl and the crazy fans. And I just don't see how you're going to pack those fans in there, next to each other, drinking and everything, hugging, high-fiving, without some of the measures I talked about earlier. And Collie talked about that on the call I listened to. It was on Flow Bowling today. And I just can't see a lot of that happening. And she talked about that. That's the great thing about bowling is we can go without fans, unlike a lot of sports. We don't get that many anyway. If you saw the PBA World Championship, that was pretty good without fans. We're more a TV show. But the PBA League is different because it's all about those crazy fans of Bayside. So ultimately, I hope the world changes enough by then because it's nothing funner. There is nothing funner than watching the Bayside Crazies and the PBA League. So I hope something works out. Maybe a little delay perhaps with it, but boy, I just can't see the PBA League going on with no fans at Bayside Bowl. There's just something wrong about that.
Yeah, it's like the Super Bowl without fans in the Super Bowl. It's like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we just bowl. And I know about bowling, like you and I could go to a bowling center and bowl with nobody around. And it's like golf people, when they go play golf, they're used to going out by themselves. Yeah, these sports know how to do things, but baseball and hockey and all that stuff, they're used to having people there.
Yeah. Plus, the competition itself is 5 guys on a team, and you're naturally all fired up. You're high-fiving and all that kind of stuff. And, it's going to be really weird when we do get back to competition. Are we going to be just elbow bumping? Is there going to be, just how are people going to act and stuff? And it's just going to be a really interesting thing. And of course, all this is going to go away as soon as we have a vaccine and everybody gets vaccinated. The world will return, pretty much to the way it was before COVID and everything came out. But hopefully the Oxford vaccine, I followed that real closely in my regular job at the Wisconsin State Journal. And they're talking starting in September and pretty much having the world vaccinated by the end of 2020. So if that happens, my God, that will certainly get us back on the road to getting back to fully normal and, getting the economy going and getting everything. So I think the world's focus will definitely be on how that's the first vaccine that's getting close. And I'm following that as closely as possible, and everybody's got to be cheering for them to come through.
All right. Well, Jeff, let me let you go. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know you got you just wrote a big article about bowling and, this virus. Where can people go and get to read that article you just sent me this morning?
Yep, www.11thframe.com, 11thframe.com, and I just interviewed a bunch of proprietors across the country and some of the executives of the big industry companies, just talking about where they see bowling, how the companies and the centers are getting through during the virus, and how bowling might be different and how they'll come out of it after they get to open up again and what measures they might take. So I try to do a comprehensive look at some of the things we talked about tonight.
That's true. Well, Jeff, thanks so much. You and your family be safe, and we'll talk to you, in a couple weeks.
Same to you, and thanks for having me on.
All right, folks, we'll be right back with the mayor of Auburn, New York, because there's a story out there I read this week that Major League Baseball is trying to eliminate 42 minor league teams, and Auburn is on the list. So we'll talk to the mayor of Auburn, New York, Mike Quayle, in a couple seconds right here on the Sports Desk here on Herb FM Sports Radio. We'll be right back on Speaker.com and also on YouTube Live. All right. All right, folks. Welcome back to the Sports Desk here on Herb FM Sports Radio, and we are live on Herb FM Sports Radio on Speaker.com and also on YouTube Live this evening. Trying to get in two different genres of media tonight. We have Mike Quayle with us, who is the mayor of Auburn, New York. That's upstate New York. They have a baseball team up there called the Doubledays, who is the short season of the Washington Nationals. And I was reading a story, Mike, that you guys are on this cutting block about what minor league baseball is trying to do, getting rid of 42 teams for next season. So what's the feeling like up there in Auburn, New York?
There's a large amount of people that are very unhappy about this. With everything else going on in the world with COVID and being locked up and no sports, and then losing the team at the same time, it's really devastating.
Yeah. Well, the Doubledays have been around for a very long time, right? They used to be the Blue Jays affiliate for a while. They were, just talk about the Doubledays. They've been a lot of different affiliates over the years.
Oh, they've been with the Yankees, the Mets, different others. We've been all over the Texas Rangers. We've been a part of baseball. I can remember going to my first baseball game here in Auburn about 1959. I was about 10 years old, and that was the Auburn Yankees. There's quite a few famous ball players that have come through here at different times. Ed Pohl, Pete Rose has come through here. There's many others, not necessarily playing with Auburn, but playing here in Auburn against Auburn.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
In the name Doubledays, it came here because Edna Doubleday lived in Auburn, New York.
So why is I know the ballpark there for the Doubledays is a very old ballpark. Are you guys working on trying to get a new facility that might save the team, or what's the plan that the city trying to do?
We just went in partnerships with our local community college. Synthetic turf was installed a year ago.
Okay.
It's a brand new field. It's something most towns would give their left arm to have. We have this. We have it available now. The college uses it. They have different baseball games, soccer, lacrosse there, plus the Auburn High School. And the high schools in the area use it all the time for baseball. But it's not what folks want. They want to see it, but they want to see the up and coming stars. So that's going to be the hard sell.
So with the New York Penn League, it seems like I was looking at the list. A lot of teams on the same list as you guys, and it seems like you guys will be this time next year and not even a team. There's no team up there. What do you got to do to tell Major League Baseball and minor league baseball, we have great following here. Please don't get rid of our baseball.
I wish we had the answer for that. We know we have a great area for the ball teams. The ball players come in. Many of them, a good percentage, live with local families when they're here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a family-oriented sport. We have the facilities. We have public interest. We just need ball players in the league. It's sad to think that it's all about money, but I guess bottom line, it is all about money. So it's, my grandsons are just coming of age I have 3 grandsons, 1 granddaughter, where they're coming of age, enjoy going to the ballpark. Mm-hmm. That's going to end. Things like that are going to end.
Right.
It's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, folks, the Doubledays had teams like the Yankees, like you said, the Yankees were there. The Astros were there for a while. Twins, yes. The Twins were there. Phillies and Astros 1 year, did a co-op or whatever. Two teams in the same, stadium helping out with the players. And then the Blue Jays were there for a while. It's very, interesting list of clubs. And then you won like 8 league titles and 15 divisional titles. You just won one back in 2011. So I know that's been a while, but wow, these people got to keep these old teams because these are history. This is history of baseball in upstate New York.
They're their farm team of the major leagues, and that's all understood. But what are the major leagues? Where are they going to get these players? Where are they going to develop these players? They're going to limit their ability to have the right athletes performing and working with them and for them. It's a farm team. It's here to teach these kids how to play ball, to play better, to enhance their skills, get them away from home, let them learn what it's like living on the road, living away from mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many things that they pick up from being in a farm team, such as Auburn or it used to be Geneva. The Rochester Red Wings, the Syracuse, I think they're Mets now.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much that we lose. This sport will lose.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Where can people like down here? I know Aberdeen is talking about being moved up to a full season A, not short season, taking over the Frederick Keys spot. Where can people go and help you guys save baseball?
Okay, we had some interference there.
Yeah.
I did not understand a word you said. So
Right.
if you had a question,
Yeah.
I'll have to throw it back at
All
you.
right, let me throw it back to you. People down here in Maryland, we have the Aberdeen Ironbirds. They're talking about being in full season next year as not a short season team. What can people do to help Auburn, New York, save their team? Is there a way they can contact anybody up there to help out?
I'm sorry, there's some kind of interference or whatever. I'm not understanding you whatsoever.
Okay.
I apologize if it's on my end, but
Okay.
something's not right.
All right, Mike. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
All right, I think you said good night. So
Yeah.
Thank you, and keep your fingers crossed. We have baseball here in Auburn in a couple months.
All right, cool. Folks, that's Mike Quarles, the mayor of Auburn, New York. We'll be right back with our good friend Gary McDaniels from Clemson Sports News right here on Herbert Fenn Sports Radio. Technical difficulties here. We're trying to get so our volume. Something happened to our box there, but we have Gary McDaniels with us, our good friend from the Clemson Sports News. He tells us all about Clemson sports, and I know down there is pretty like us, nothing going on, and it's quiet, and all that stuff. So, Gary, how's everybody in your family, and how's everybody down there?
Oh, we're all doing great. Everybody's just doing their social distancing, staying inside, trying to keep themselves occupied, and and looking forward to better times coming up, of course.
Yeah. So it looks like coming up on. Hold on, what happened here? Did it shut off? Yeah, it shut off. I'm having problems here tonight. Hold on, Gary. Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button.
It's all good.
Yeah. So anyway, talk about. I saw something last week that a Syracuse athletic director said they're definitely going to be playing football in the fall. But what do you think about this whole situation with the viruses and all that stuff? Do you see college football playing a full season, half season, or maybe whenever?
Honestly, I'm being optimistic about what I've seen. Like what the government's numbers that released and timelines and all those graphs and charts and the curve and all that stuff they talk about. And I talk to Darryl every once in a blue moon off the record, and I gauge his thoughts and there's folks in town. He's already mentioned himself. He thinks we're going to play football this year. The ACC feels like we're going to play football this year. I think this thing, hopefully, I'm a kid being an optimistic person, can find a way to pass us by in the next 3 to 4 weeks, then everybody can start getting normal. I think they need 6 weeks preseason is what they put out there before they go game 1. So if you take that, you push that back 6 weeks, you're talking mid-July. If we keep it as it is today.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and you got, like Brian Kelly said, you went from the Irish. You got to start practice on July 1st, and then or get everybody there on the campus. If you don't get them on the campus by July 1st, then you have a problem because you need 6 weeks to get everybody running.
Yeah. You got to remember the spring practices were all abbreviated. Clemson got stopped about halfway through theirs. Everyone else did too. Spring games were not played. Guys have not been able to go out and do summer conditioning drills. They haven't been able to hit the athletic facilities or any of the weight training facilities, any of the campuses. Everyone's kind of just at home doing their own thing. And you don't know what these guys are going to look like when they come back in and home mom's cooking for the next 6 8.
Right. Yeah, you don't know because they're sitting around, hopefully working out in their own gyms or pushing cars like you see during the NFL draft. Some players pushing cars up the street. That's some pure muscle right there.
Well, I mean, if you go back to the news for Clemson during this period was the draft. 7 players drafted. Isaiah Simmons goes number 8 overall. T. Higgins goes out there. The big surprise, A.J. Terrell going into the first round as cornerback. 7 players overall. Again, Clemson's doing a good job of putting players, develop them, getting them through, and getting them into the league. And I think a lot of people are taking notice of that on the recruiting trails.
Yeah, I think this year with the draft was different because you didn't have the pro day. You guys had your pro day, and that helped out you guys a little much better than the other ones because you guys had it before, March 11th when everybody went down. Yeah.
It was a weird draft. I put out an article. It was yesterday. We put out a piece about the draft, talking about sense of normalcy in this weird draft. And you guys can go check that out. Your audience can go see it at ClemsonTigers.com. Or excuse me, ClemsonSportsNews.com. And it's called Virtual Draft Day: A Sense of Normalcy. That went out yesterday. We put out one yesterday on T. Higgins. We interviewed his mom. Mama's boy goes to the NFL. She's a great lady. And we talked a little bit about softball. This was the first year Clemson had a softball team, and they were absolutely exceeding expectations by 5-10-fold. I mean, these guys were not expected to be a winning program. They were actually in the top of the league already in year 1 when this season got abbreviated this year.
Yeah.
And, they were very excited for those guys. They were selling out every game in brand new stadium and a lot of good things going on there. A lot of stuff. This is a busy place in the spring. With at one point when they shut down, we were actually still covering basketball, which was in the tournament. We're going to the NIT.
Mm-hmm.
We were still covering baseball, which is just a mid-season form, softball, and spring football. We had 4 sports we're covering at one time, and they all shut down at one time.
Yeah, like our good friend Trevor Groves, who basically does everything and runs around like a nut. He was doing baseball at night when he found out that NBA was canceling their games, and he was telling me stories that like everybody was sitting there in the press box trying to figure out what to do, what's going on tomorrow, and then I talked to Mark Packer, a week later, and Mark Packer said, he talked to the commissioner that morning and said, he said, we're playing, we're just going to play with no fans, and that's the plan. And then all of a sudden, something at 9:30 in the morning until tip-off at noon, something happened.
I was there. I was sitting there waiting, and then all of a sudden the news came that they're going to go ahead and call it and make it the season, get Florida State the title. And Clemson was sitting there extending their chances to maybe possibly get further down that tournament. But either way, what a weird environment to work in and try to come up with material in our world. I know you guys are probably having a hard time with subject matter topics, but you have to reach into your grab bag of the past or look into the future. So, it's that's kind of what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of going over things and at the same time trying to project what could be coming.
Yeah, I was looking through old archives and see what I could play during this time, and I found some old old baseball games from from the
Baseball games, reliving my youth kind of thing,
mm,
kind of remembering where I was when that happened kind of thing, and then breaking out some old movies, that kind of thing. But at the same time, I've released a bunch of photo galleries on through last season's photos, and our photographers last year were able to capture some amazing stuff over football and baseball and basketball seasons and softball.
mm-hmm.
And I've been releasing photo galleries out there of mixed sports and kind of share folks so they can have something to go through, kind of jog their memory of what they were doing this time last year, or as football season or baseball or softball, baseball was coming around.
Yeah. What's going on for we're in the media? What are we going to do for the ACC kickoff? Because you and I enjoy doing that every year. Get a chance to sit there and listen to all the coaches and also what do you think they're going to do?
Hopefully I'll see you in Charlotte. I mean, that's the plan. I'm telling you, I'll be very optimistic. I think by the time July gets here, things will be in motion and things will open up to a point where we can get small gatherings together and do things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think they need to do is probably move everybody from that area where all the radio people are, right? Because that's where all the congestion is. When you see over the years that they have all this
the
radio
row there is kind of congested coming out of the ballrooms in that little area there. But again, you don't know if that's going to be the venue again. It has been in the past for us that venue.
Right.
They could definitely move it. Convention center would be a better place for me. You'd ask me for something like that.
Oh yeah, I think it'll be easier so you can space people out. Like you have, one side is going to be all ESPN people, and they're all away from everybody, and then and then us and all that stuff, and you don't have to be running into each other.
Yeah, it'll be nice. Well, like I said, we'll see. The rules are going to change, and everything's going to change for us moving forward. I think this was a big game changer for anything that involves crowd in any kind of venue status. I came from the music industry before all this for 30 years, so I know about dealing with arenas, crowds, and it's just all that's going to change for everybody. And I don't see how you can do it. I don't see how you can have a football game with nobody in the stands. I don't see how you have a football game with people spaced apart. It's going to have to. I think this thing will run its course, and they'll come out with the right medicines in this world, and we'll fight it, and we'll be able to go back to normal soon.
Oh yeah, and I agree with you. And I just feel like when we're going to look back on this, like in 10 years or 15 years from now, going, do you remember when we had no sports? What did you do? And you'd be looking at your log going, oh, I did this. I don't remember doing that.
Yeah. If you look back in history, I mean, the world never came to a stop in the past for pandemics, and this is the first time the world's kind of closed itself off and self-isolated itself, and hopefully we've done a good enough job here around the country and around the world where we can beat this thing down and get past it. And again, I just don't. It is. The only thing I can compare it to is like baseball strike.
Right.
Not having baseball for a year. Football with the scab players and playing football. That kind of stuff. That's stuff I remember.
Yeah.
That comes close to this, and that doesn't come close to the idea of not having sports or the shock of being at a football stadium trying to cover a football game with nobody in the stands.
Yeah. Well, we're in the media, so we're guaranteed a spot anyway. So we'll be just sitting there, and then
covering a game with nobody in the stands is just going to be surreal in any way you look at it, and how those players react. A lot of that's adrenaline-driven sports. Sports is driven by adrenaline. Adrenaline is created by the aura around you. There's no aura around you, no atmosphere. Where does the adrenaline come from? That's why I ask. There's a lot of questions there. If I want my players to go out there and play for a reason.
Yeah.
Those reasons are usually sitting in the stands.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Gary, I'm going to have Conor and Neill on from the Winston Salem newspaper, and Wake Forest got rid of Danny Manning, so that's a little big news in the ACC.
Well, I tell you, man, Danny, I mentioned it myself while watching that Wake team play this year. I did see the development, and I honestly did see it. And his post-game pressers, it seemed like he was too engaged with that basketball program like he should have been.
Right.
And coming from where he come from with his past, and we all grew up watching him play, we knew what kind of player he was. We kind of wanted to see that, use that program, get them back to what Wake Forest basketball has been historically. But Different way, move on, find somebody, bring that program back to where it belongs, and we'll see what happens from there.
Exactly. Well, Gary, I hope you and your family and everybody and your friends are safe down there, and we'll talk to you before sometime in the middle of May, June. We'll see what's going on.
All right, guys. Chris, you guys take care up there, and we'll check in with you guys whenever.
Yep.
Tell everybody to come visit us at ClemsonSportsNews.com at home of Clemson Sports News.
All right, folks. That's Gary McDaniels, our good friend down there in Clemson. We'll be right back with another good friend of ours, Conor O'Neill, who writes for the Winston-Salem newspaper. He's from Baltimore, so we'll talk to him about if he talked to his family since this whole virus thing has started. And we'll be right back on the sports desk here on Herb FM Sports Radio on Speaker.com, and also we're tonight live on YouTube Live. We'll be right back. All right. We're good. All right, folks. Welcome back to the Sports Desk here on Herb FM Sports Radio. We have our good friend Conor O'Neill, who is originally from this area, but he's down in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So, first question is: have you can stay in contact with anybody up here in the Maryland area, and how everybody's doing?
Yeah, my parents still live in Towson, and I'm probably one of millions of 30-ish-year-olds telling their parents who are up there in age to stay at home, and telling my dad, not so much anymore, but about a month ago, telling my dad not to be dumb and go play golf with his buddies,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So yeah, still keep in touch with them, and I have other parents.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's cool. Well, first of all, let's talk about the reason I got you on. You had some news this week. Wake Forest got rid of Danny Manning, the basketball coach for Wake Forest, former Kansas star, and you guys picked him up and made him a coach here in down there in Winston-Salem. What went wrong down there for Danny? I know we talked about it off and on during the basketball season. What did he do wrong that didn't bring the joy back to Wake Forest basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest single thing is the player retention or lack thereof. When Shawnee Brown announced he was going to test the NBA waters and enter the transfer portal while maintaining his eligibility before his senior season, he became, I think, the fifth player in the last 3 years to declare that they weren't going to play their senior season at Wake Forest. So they have one more year left, and the blueprint to success in today's college basketball world is to get those 3 and 4 year players into your program. If you're not the Duke or Kentucky and pulling in the one and dones, and and getting the factory going. So to have 5 would-be seniors basically say, I would rather, whether it's the case of Brian Crawford and go play in Israel, or whether it's the case of Dinos Mitiglu and go play in his native Greece, or whether it's Sean D. Brown and go play at, his Final Four is down to Gonzaga, LSU, Illinois, and Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. You got to have seniors to win in college basketball. Like I said, unless you're one of these one-and-done factories, and even 2 one-and-done factories have won national championships in the last 9 years.
Yeah. Well, you covered his practices, right? What was his practices like? Were they more like structural, or they're more like I don't know about Coach K's practices because I've never seen them in person. But what are they like during the week?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you.
Yeah.
We only got availability and access after practice or
Okay.
before practice. In my 3 years on the beat, I saw one summer workout that lasted about an hour. It was last summer, and I came away thinking that, for example, that Miles Lester, who's a transfer from Rice, who sat out last season and was eligible this year, I thought he was a sharpshooter that could give him some valuable minutes as a backup point guard and kind of instant offense and come off the bench and hit a 3 or 2. And I think he probably played about 30 minutes total on the season. So that's just kind of, I never really had any kind of feel for what Wake Forest looked like in a basketball practice under Danny Manning.
Okay, that's true. So what are they looking for to replace Danny Manning? Are they going to look for like a Beeline, the guy who went to Cleveland for maybe a half a season after he got bought out, or are they going to go with somebody from the bench, or are they going to keep the guy who's a Wake Forest legend there as the coach?
Yeah, I've heard John Beeline's out. The six initial candidates in the pool that everybody's kind of working off of that got interviewed either on Sunday or Monday are Thad Matta, Steve Forbes, Wes Miller, Ryan Odom, Pat Kelsey, and Tommy Amaker.
Okay.
And honestly, between that bunch of 6 and really, if you expand it, if you think of really anybody realistic, there's not really a grand slam home run hire that Wake could look at. What they've got to find is somebody that can come in and instantly pump energy into this fan base. The Joel, for 2 years in a row, has averaged the lowest attendance in the 31 season history of the building.
Mm-hmm.
You got an apathetic and a fan base. It's a fan base that just wants a reason to care. They need a reason to care, but they've got one right now because there's going to be a new coach. But if that new coach doesn't work out, then it's going to slip further into oblivion.
Right. Do you think Ryan Odom might be the head candidate because his father was down there in Wake Forest, right?
No, yeah. I honestly think he's about the least likely of the 6.
Okay.
I think that Ryan is going to make a really good Power 6 conference coach. I'm a believer in Ryan Odom. I know it might not sound that way based on me saying that he's the least likely right now, but that's just right now. I think he needs more seasoning. I think he needs to, possibly jump up to a higher level of the mid-majors level. I don't know that you can make the jump from UMBC to a Power 6, especially an ACC. If there was somewhere, like Rutgers or Penn State or something that came open without much infrastructure or history, then he might be a fit there. But, once the shine was off of that 2018 win over Virginia in the tournament, I think he's going to need a little more established success somewhere higher than the America East.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Conor, thank you so much for coming on. I know you also do some football as well, and I know Dave Colson took a pay cut because of this whole virus thing to help other people out. That's a good thing for him to be helping whoever's out with this virus.
Yeah, it was good to see Dave step forward with that, and every coach at Wake took a pay cut. There are varying levels to it. So
yeah, that's cool. Well, Conor, I want to wish you and your rest of your families to be safe. during this time of this crisis, and we'll talk hopefully probably at the ACC kickoff if it's there in July.
Great. Sounds great, Chris. Thanks for having me, and be safe too.
All right, man. That's Conor O'Neill, who writes for the Winston-Salem newspaper. We'll be right back with our good friend Greg Madia, who writes for the Daily Record down there in Harrisonburg, Virginia, right here on the Sports Desk here on FM Sports Radio, live on Speaker.com, and also on YouTube Live tonight. So. All right, folks, welcome back to the Sports Desk here on Harbor Fence Sports Radio. We're live on Speaker.com tonight, and we're trying a trial run on YouTube Live. You probably want to know what this picture is I was showing folks. That's Tom Clark, the commissioner of the PBA. He'll join us at 8:45 this evening. So I just wanted to show you who's coming on. Right now, we got Greg Madia with us, our good friend from the Daily Record down there in Harrisonburg, Virginia. My parents were down there back in March before this whole thing started. So, how's everybody doing down there in Harrisonburg?
Yeah, hanging in there, Chris. It's just, one day at a time, staying home, staying out of the way, and everybody, I guess, is trying to do their part, right?
Yeah, do our part and save and help lives and save people and, clean, get ourselves our daily hygiene. Are you doing more washing your hands, Greg, now, or have you done it before?
I'd like to think I've always been washing my hands,
Yeah.
But trying it, always staying on top of it now for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this past weekend we had the NFL draft. It was the virtual draft, or AKA you're in Roger Goodell's living room. That was fun for Friday and Saturday night. Friday night, I was waiting for him to bring back one of those cigars with like a little wine and go, "Yeah, the 6th pick in the draft." I was waiting for him to do that, but I don't think he does that. But a lot of JMU players got drafted in the later rounds. I guess everybody there in Harrisonburg going to root for the Cowboys.
Yeah, you have the quarterback Benucci go pick 231st overall to Dallas. And I don't know if Benucci being drafted was such a surprise because I think over the last month or so, some steam had picked up and his stock had risen a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's always had all the tools, Chris. If you think about it, he can run the ball really effectively. He's got a decent arm, very good arm. Can throw from a variety of different arm angles, kind of crafty in that sense. And with the way the NFL is going, where a lot of the quarterbacks are being asked to do both the running game and the passing game, at least to some extent, as the college offenses trickle up to the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a place for Benucci in the NFL. That's for sure. And you look at the Cowboys situation, they don't have a quarterback on their roster that's exactly like Dak Prescott. He can do all the things that Prescott can do. And I'm not saying Benucci can do all those things right away, but I think he's more the mold that Prescott is than maybe some of the other guys on their roster, in Cooper Rush, the Central Michigan product, and Clayton Thorson, the Northwestern alum. I think Thorson last year was the 5th round pick of the Eagles and then got cut and then was added to Dallas practice squad later on. Rush has been in Dallas as the backup the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting situation. And then Mike McCarthy, as I wrote in the Daily News Record at DNRonline.com, there's some ties there between him, Benucci, and the James Madison coach, Curt Cignetti. So it kind of made a bunch of sense for Benucci to end up in Dallas, almost like he was destined for it.
Yeah, and then Rondell Carter's there too, so that's awesome. That you got a couple JMU people. One's a draft pick, the other one's a free agent, pretty much.
Yeah, so Carter, it didn't take him long to have opportunities right after the draft. Actually, had a couple of different offers he was mulling before taking the Cowboys offer. The Cowboys are going to pay him a good bit. I think he's going to be their highest paid undrafted rookie free agent to join the team. But he told me he was kind of deciding between San Francisco, Dallas, Arizona. He had heard from so Rondell Carter, who was an FCS consensus All-American last year, had his chances, had his opportunities, and now he ends up in Dallas with Benucci. And then both of them, I talked to both of them. Carter, right after he was signed at Benucci on Sunday, a day after he was drafted, and both of them said, it's pretty cool to be going to the NFL and going to a team where you have your buddy, you have a guy you can trust. Benucci was the CAA Offensive Player of the Year last year, and Carter was the CAA Defensive Player of the Year last year, and they're both headed down to Texas. And down there in Frisco, where the Cowboys have their practice facility, the Star is actually where James Madison's practiced a few times before ahead of the FCS National Championship games they've been in over the past couple of years. So a little bit of familiar surrounding for both of them. It was funny, too, Chris. I'll tell you a little Dallas coach, as the new Dallas head coach, was the day JMU had arrived in Frisco for the FCS National Championship.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the 8th, Wednesday, had a Saturday National Championship game, and DiNucci ran into Mike McCarthy in the elevator. And both of them were from Western Pennsylvania originally. They'd never met before.
Mm-hmm.
But DiNucci's middle school basketball coach was actually Mike McCarthy's brother.
Oh, okay.
So what a story that is. DiNucci told me, he introduced himself to Mike McCarthy, and the two were able to speak for a little bit. So kind of an unexpected elevator ride down there in Frisco, Texas, ahead of the national championship game. And, right around the time McCarthy was introduced as the Cowboys coach, ends up to be, kind of this, oh, man, I wonder if that didn't happen. Would they have taken DiNucci? But it did. It's a part of the story.
Yeah. Well, I know you and I are in the media. Have you been on an elevator ride with somebody that like you've seen famous before? Or have you had anybody like that?
No, Chris. I can't say it. I can't say that. I've been on the elevator with football coaches going up to the press box, different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get settled in the coaches' booth. Where I'm going to the writers' area, so that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in hotels where other media people have stayed, but I don't think I could ever point out a famous person in an elevator that's occurred. So good situation there for the news.
Yeah, I was in an elevator one time at Citi Field because you and I are big Met fans, and Ralph Kiner was getting into the elevator, so that was pretty cool to talk to him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think I have a picture of him, but I can't find it around here. But I took a picture with him, but I was like, this is pretty cool. And I told him like I used to watch you on the Kiner's Corner, and he's like, yeah, I know, we used to do that a lot, and and I know he was on his way out. He was getting old, and I know he died a couple of years later, but that was pretty cool sitting there in an elevator with him.
Yeah, he was a staple of those Met broadcasts. They've had some legendary broadcasters over the years. Bob Murphy, Ralph Kiner, of course, kind of for the older generation. And then for our generation, Chris, it's obviously Gary Cohen and on TV and Howie Rose on the radio.
Right, exactly, and that's why we miss them right now because we can't do any games. But I know they've been doing a lot of Major League Baseball 20 on SNY. I don't have it, but I wish I could watch it.
Yeah, I saw they did kind of a video game simulation. Kind of interesting, but I'm ready for real sports whenever it does come back.
Right, exactly. So, just talk about down there. I know JMU is what's Harrisonburg's bread and butter and all that stuff. With this virus, is it really hurting businesses down there? Or I know you walk around, you see a lot of things. You can't leave your house and all that stuff, but you've been there for a while. Does it look different without any JMU sports, playing like softball should be playing right now or baseball?
For sure, Chris. I mean, the spring sports season has been good to JMU over the past couple of years. Of course, the softball team's always in the NCAA tournament, makes a regional pretty oftenly. I know they have the past 7 years. They've made the NCAA tournament. The lacrosse team, the women's lacrosse team, won the national championship a few seasons ago. The 2018 season? They won the Division I national championship in lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
The baseball team's been getting better. They had 4 draft picks last year, the baseball team. And they were off to a really good start this year. The coach Marlon Eichenberry and company. And I cover a little bit of that during the spring, kind of balance that with spring football. So it's been a little different for sure with no sports and kind of wild. I know everybody's kind of chomping at the bit to get back to some normalcy, but at the end of the day, that's kind of out of everybody's control. It'll be up to the doctors, the governors, and all these state officials before you figure out what's next. Because obviously, the next thing on the college sports calendar is the football season, and that's going to be, hopefully in time, but you can't say that for certain.
Yeah. Do you see that a couple games might be there at the Bridgeport Stadium, with new fans for a couple games just to see what's going on?
Yeah, I know, Chris. I mean, my guess is as good as yours. I've talked to a bunch of people over the last month or so to kind of get a good forecast for what could be this fall. My guess, and this is my big takeaway, this is what the CAA commissioner, Joe D'Antoni, Neill had told me was, the only way that the football is even possible, kind of right off the cuff, is you have to have students on the campuses. You have to have college students on campus. Jeff Horn told me, student athletes, that's the JMU AD, Jeff Horn, student athletes aren't going to be coming back to campus in isolation. You're not going to bring back the football team and, the soccer teams if the rest of the student body isn't on campus. So you're going to have the rest of the student body on campus, and it's not just, one school. You're going to have multiple schools back in order to play a football season or anything. So a lot of factors come into play. I think you probably need a decision, I don't know, May, June, have it noted, be able to note it, put together a equal notice in terms of training camp schedules and practices, when everybody can get back to work, when and if it's possible, if it's safe to have fans in the stands. There's a lot to sort through, and I just think the honest answer right now is not a lot of people know those answers because it's still early in this process.
Exactly. Well, Greg, I want to say wish you and your girlfriend and the rest of your family healthy, and hope you guys are safe. And we'll get through this, and we'll look back on this like 10, 15 years from now going, do you remember 2020 when we were sitting around doing nothing?
I believe that'll be the case. We'll look back and think, yeah, holy cow, baseball season got delayed. The basketball season was, put on hold right in the middle of the NBA season. There was no March Madness. So yeah, hopefully everybody stays healthy and we look back at this thing and go, man, what a weird, strange, and sad time for all the people that have lost their lives.
Exactly. All right, Greg, talk to you soon. Good luck, and we'll talk to you down the road, and God bless everybody.
All right, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. We'll be right back. That was Greg Madia. We'll be right back with our good friend Jakob Butturff, who is the reigning Masters champion, but he's not can't bowl in the Masters this year because it got postponed. But we'll talk to him and see how he's doing. Plus, he celebrated a birthday yesterday. So you are listening to the speaker.com, the sports desk on speaker.com, and also we're live on YouTube. You can see my lovely face right here, folks. Yeah. Yes, I am wearing a Buccaneers jersey just so you guys can see me tonight on the show. So we'll be right back here on the Sports Desk, live on YouTube and also on speaker.com. So we're live on speaker.com. It's 8 o'clock, our second hour. We'll be back in 2 weeks again because we're trying to keep you guys up to date what's going on in the sports world. Tonight we have, right now, we have Jakob Butturff, our good friend from the Professional Bowlers Tour. He is the reigning Masters champion, but he can't defend title because that got postponed due to this virus. But Jacob's there in Arizona, relaxing. First of all, happy birthday from yesterday. So what did you do yesterday for your birthday?
Surprisingly enough, I honestly just signed up to be an Uber Eats driver, and I did my first couple deliveries yesterday morning. Came back, just kind of relaxed. I had a podcast for Columbia 300. I went live on the page. Ended up doing that for about an hour, and then just kind of relaxed by the pool for the rest of the day. It was definitely a relaxing birthday.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, this time last year, you were, I think it was the Masters was bowling, this time last year, or was it a month ago? When was it?
It was actually on April Fool's Day last year.
Oh, April Fool's Day. Nice. and it was in Vegas, and you won it on TV, and your first major. So since then, just talk about your bowling since then, because I think you've been doing pretty well on the winter tour until everything got shut down, right?
Yeah, like we were in the middle of our World Series of bowling, and unfortunately, that had to get postponed to complete it because we had a lot of international guys bowl the World Series, and unfortunately, like the majority of the countries overseas, we're taking very big precautions, and the international guys, had to get home as soon as possible.
Wow. Yeah, I was talking to Jason Malmonte, 2 days after you guys bowled on TV, and I asked him how's everything. He goes, well, he was in Chicago, and he was like, well, I don't know if I could get home. I don't know if they're going to let me in because I've been in the United States, and we're having this issue here, and it looks like he's enjoying himself. He's home, and and he's doing some video. Everybody's doing their video things now. It's pretty cool to see everybody doing something like that.
Absolutely. I've done numerous video chats. Like I actually did one recently with Bowler X as well, and it's just great seeing everybody still, keep in touch, making sure that everybody's staying safe, and just going by everything right now. And before we know it, we're probably gonna be back out on the lanes.
Good. You're good friends with Josh Blanchard. I saw a picture. I think you put it on Instagram. He was doing some drive-through. He was a drive-through guy. So how was that? Yeah, how interesting having him as a drive-through guy.
So he ended up doing it. We have a good friend of ours that actually owns Pete's Fish and Chips down here in Arizona. He owns the franchise title. We both league with him, and Josh has been doing some help out with him. In the meantime, kind of just stand in the seat, and I can understand that. And I ended up stopping by to see him because we were doing a charity run that day for Melissa Peters, Jake Peters' wife. She's battling cancer right now. So for every 10% of every dollar that was spent at Pete's Fish and Chips that day between 4 and 9 o'clock ended up going to her charity foundation.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Good stuff. That's good. You're helping somebody out in this time, and with the virus and all that stuff. You guys, other people. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely, especially with the time going through right now, trying to help out anybody that needs the help right now in this time of need. We're trying to do everything we possibly can. My mom's still battling cancer right now, and the one thing I always taught is that I try to talk to her every day, keep her spirits up.
Yeah, you got to do that. I have a brother who's sick right now who, he's, in and out, going to the doctor's appointment. So I'm trying to keep him upbeat. And I have a girlfriend who, she has to stay indoors because she has, a immune system that's not capable of fighting this disease that's outside. And, it's hard for these people. They can't go anywhere.
Exactly. And that's one thing that is hard for my mom. She can't visit, basically her doctor is out here in Arizona, and with her living in Vegas, it's pretty hard for her not being able to travel to get her treatment. So it's very frustrating, but at the same time, I know my mom's safety more is staying in by herself.
Exactly. So what do you do during this time? I know normally you guys would be hitting the lanes, practicing, getting ready for tournaments, stuff. What have you guys been doing to keep yourself fit? Because I know there's a lot of sitting around. For me, a lot of sitting around taking naps, watching the Food Network, watching Ann Burrell, the lady who cooks all this stuff on the Food Network. What do you guys keep yourself busy? Do you guys work out, or what do you do?
I've been trying to do this better with the working out. I've been going to the grocery store a lot, eating my own food, going out in the backyard, kind of working out as much as I can. I ended up losing about 15 pounds during the World Series. So,
wow.
Just trying to stay in shape is the best possible thing I can do right now, especially when we can't go out there and physically do anything, like go to the gym or whatnot. So just doing what we possibly can to do what we can at home.
That's true. Well, Jacob, I want to wish you and your family and your mom and everybody there in Arizona, hopefully this whole virus thing, it should be getting, hopefully we get back to some civilization, back to some regularity, and we can see you guys on TV. And I know the PBA league is going to start up soon, and that might be something to get everybody ready to roll.
Absolutely, and hopefully, it couldn't be a better event to get everything back going and making sure, like, I mean, just seeing the fans out there and just doing what we can to make sure bowling is so good on TV.
Exactly. All right, Jacob, thank you so much for coming on, and I want.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man. We'll be right back with one of the in a few minutes right here on Hermicon Sports Radio on Speaker.com. All right, Jacob. Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you very much.
YouTube tonight. We're trying some live YouTube videos of us broadcasting here in our broadcast studio here in Cockeysville. But we have Jude Teague with us. He's the executive director of Kingsport, Tennessee. If that sounds familiar, that's a very familiar baseball team down there. The Kingsport Mets are still there. They've been affiliate of the Mets since 1980, and they had a lot of great players going through that system, like Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden, Kevin Mitchell, Reyes, David Wright, and H.A. Burnett was there as well. Made his professional debut in Kingsford for another team. But Jeff, thanks for joining us. So, what's the mood like down there? Because I heard you Major League Baseball and minor league baseball is trying to come from 160 to they're going to try to cut 41 teams, and looks like Kingsport is on that chopping block. So, what's going on down there?
Well, the big thing that we hear is the whole league's on the chopping block.
Okay.
And, it's not the Mets or any of the other affiliates that are in our Appalachian League. There's 10 teams, and they're talking about getting all of us.
Wow. Why didn't you want to get rid of the rookie ball? Because I know the Orioles up here had a rookie team down there in the Appalachian State League, but why do you want to get rid of a whole league?
Well, I think they're trying to reduce their investment in player development, and personally, I feel like it's a mistake. It's been a part of our community since 1921. Minor league baseball or some type of baseball. We had an independent league a couple of years during that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But it creates a lot of we have a lot of Mets fans in our area, even though we're closer to Cincinnati and to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of Mets fans in the area, and they're not real happy about it, to be honest.
Wow. Like looking at the folks got to realize Kingsport's been the Mets affiliate for 25 years, and you have all these great players like Darryl Strawberry when he was drafted, and Kevin Mitchell, who I grew up watching. Because I'm a big Met fan since I was a kid. Watching them in 1986. It's Dwight Gooden. He must have been one of those great pitchers to watch down there. With his younger days. Before all the stuff he got himself in trouble with. But you got some great people that came through that area for the Mets.
Well, for the Mets, obviously Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden's big names, but a big name's David Wright.
Yeah.
Played for 10 years, probably third base for the Mets.
Yeah.
And then Jose Reyes and H.A. Burnett made his first appearance here. Dale Murphy played, when it was under a different affiliate. played here. So there's been some great players come through our facility here that we have.
Yeah. Wow.
And we were in the process of building a new stadium when all this started.
Oh, okay.
Since we have backed off of that to see how it shakes out, but no one from the Mets has ever said they wanted to leave Kingsport. We have a great relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
They visit us quite often. We visit them quite often, and it's in the owner's hands.
Yeah, I just think
no one stood up and said, "Hey, this is what it's going to be." So I know there were rumors last week about a secret meeting taking place that they were going to announce the next day.
Yeah.
You know, you hear that all the time.
Well, I think right now they can't really do anything because of this whole virus thing. So they don't know if minor league baseball is even going to be playing this year. You know, it's all we don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've even heard they're going to get some of your New York Penn League teams.
Yeah, and one team that's going to be moved to A ball is the Ironbirds because Cal built that stadium, and that's where you know you have a brand new stadium or it's been around for 20 years. You know, Cal's Ripken Stadium. Yeah, you're definitely going to use that as your move that team up to single A or whatever, double A.
Well, and the Mets have Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You know, that's in your all's. I guess they're in your division.
Yeah, they're in the division. Yeah. And they're going to be moved up too. So it's going to be like, it's going to be weird seeing these teams. Full season in baseball in Hartford County. That's going to be interesting because you got a lot of kids who are in school. They can't even draw people to go to Camden Yards during school year.
I was going to say it might get a little precipitation that's frozen that time of year too.
Right. Exactly. In April, baseball in Hartford County is not that warm. I played rec ball and it's cold. So I think if you start in June, that's a lot warmer for people to watch baseball.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's cold here in April and May.
Exactly. So what is the town doing to try to tell Major League Baseball, not us, go somewhere else and get rid of a team? What are you guys doing?
We have had some proclamations that our city leaders have put together and sent Major League Baseball and obviously the Mets as well. We've got some elected officials that are at the congressional level that have said their piece, so to speak, with Major League Baseball. We've had some meetings down that pathway as well. Phil Rowe has expressed his concern about it going away. The big thing that's, other than just baseball going on is some of these smaller communities like Pulaski and Martinville and even us, it's a big impact of spending from the clubs as they come into our areas as well.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for coming on tonight. And where can people here in Maryland, or wherever they're listening to us or watching us, to help you guys fight Major League Baseball and keep the Mets in Kingsport?
Thank you.
No, where can they go?
Where can they go?
Yeah.
They could go to visitkingsport.com.
Mm-hmm.
That is our website that links to the Mets and will link to our city leaders. And they can send, I think there's a petition on the city website that they can sign.
Okay.
Is one thing. It's at kingsporttn.gov.
Okay.
All spelled out. And then they could just drop a note to myself if they wanted to. And it's just JUD@visitkingsport.com.
Okay, cool. Well, Jeff, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you hopefully throughout the summer and see how you guys are doing, and hopefully you guys are going to be off the cutting block.
We hope so. We are trying our best to keep our team here in Kingsport.
Thanks for coming on. We'll be right back with our good friend Rob Sanders from Fox Sports 1400 in Columbia, South Carolina. We'll talk to him about what's going on with him, and I was on his show a couple weeks ago. We'll talk more sports with him in a few minutes right here on the Sports Desk here on Herbertown Sports Radio on Speaker.com and also on YouTube Live. And also on YouTube tonight. We're trying to do live on YouTube. So thanks for the folks who are tuning in tonight. We got our good friend Rob Sanders with us. I was on his show 2 weeks ago down there in Columbia, South Carolina, Fox Sports Radio 1400. So he does the rundown, does all those shows as well. So Rob, first of all, what did you think about the NFL draft last week with the Roger Goodell doing his stuff in his living room?
I kind of wanted. I'm so used to the tradition of booing the commissioner. I wanted to boo the commissioner myself. So it was kind of weird sitting in his basement. Very strange NFL draft. He looked like he was bored too.
Yeah, Rob, I thought he was going to bring out one of those like bottled wines and go like, and the next pick, the 16th pick by the Chicago Bears, and it'd be like sitting there going, "What's up, everybody?" Yeah, you know, and I'm like, and then go back to the well, he brought out the M&Ms, and he goes, "Oh, I'm polishing off the M&Ms. Thanks, Roger." Yeah, yeah. So
strange draft.
It was. What was your surprise about the draft besides going into Roger Goodell's living room and the other guy on Saturday afternoon? We don't know who that guy was. He was in the middle of his living room. Thanks, Bob.
I have no clue who that guy was. Yeah. My biggest surprise of the draft was I think the Green Bay Packers pick was interesting. They basically have told Aaron Rodgers they're on borrowed time now because we've got this young guy that we're hoping that he takes over for you. So thanks for what you've done. We still want you to be great for 3 years, but after that we're going to give it to the kid from Utah State. Also, but then in the second round, they drafted A.J. Dillon, who 2 years ago was the ACC Player of the Year, I believe, and an outstanding player, and made a lot of. I think that was a good move, but then the rest of it was kind of silly. I'm still in the camp of I don't think that Joe Burrow should have been the first pick overall,
right?
Simply because he went to Ohio State, couldn't get off the bench, got injured, had to transfer, and then everything lined up for Burrows with LSU. They had 12 players drafted, something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but he was NFL caliber receivers. He had great players on the offensive line, and he had a guy that was so respected by the end of the season that they made the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. So
yeah,
it was. I think that it get too small of a sample size. I mean, he did really, really great stuff for 1 year, but in my mind, you need to be consistent. So I thought that was, in my opinion, I don't think he should have been the first pick. I really don't.
yeah. I was really surprised about the lack of Miami players not getting picked until like the 5th, 6th, 7th, or maybe even the free agent picks.
Well, Miami right now is strange to me because they're able to still get talent, and I think what Coach Diaz is doing down there is the right way. But he's having to fill a lot of gaps with junior college guys. But I was a little surprised too that more Miami players didn't go. I do think that it's strange around the ACC because Clemson is so far ahead of everybody else. But after Clemson, I mean, were you really, other than A.J. Dillon, was there a player that, I know the young man from Louisville got drafted, but other than that, there wasn't a real shock and awe pick. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I know Akers going to the Rams. I think that was a nice pick because the Rams need a running back.
Well, the thing with him, though, was he was a great player for Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Which wasn't even an issue with that. It's just that I think he lost interest after his freshman year. I mean, you were at ACC kickoff with me. You were sitting right there with me, if I remember correctly, where he comes up the stairs and he's tomahawk chopping at people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, oh, this is going to be great. Really, Tiger's going to be great stuff with him, etc. He got behind an offensive line that wasn't really that good, and then I think he just got tired of getting his face punched in every week. And I think that wore on him a little bit. Yeah. Does he have the capability to bounce back and do it in the pros? I don't know. But, I mean, he wasn't a guy where I was looking at it, I was like, oh, this is a great pick. I mean, he's a project, in my opinion.
Right. Exactly. And I think when I met him back at the ACC kickoff, I talked to him about him being a running back and what he's been working on. And he wanted to be like Dalvin Cook and work done and all that stuff, and up on themselves. And now we have a new coach, and I think he should have stayed one more year.
Well, maybe, but once you got to a point where you're just done, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, you know what? The offensive line at Florida State this year is not going to be any better than the offensive line was at Florida State last year. You can hear my son in the background.
Yeah.
But no, they had the offensive line's not going to be any better. So why would you go back and put yourself at risk? You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. I agree with you. And you ruin your draft pick. Yeah, your draft pick because you wanted to play an extra year. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean, he did what he was supposed to do, and ended up, he still got drafted, which is what he wanted anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest about something too. With we're in the draft with running backs. You want guys that you want to draft it in the second round. You don't want to give them first round money. So, it's just strange though because the NFL teams, and running backs are a dime a dozen. I mean, Edwards-Helaire got picked up in the first round,
mm-hmm.
but unless you're the caliber player like Christian McCaffrey, they're not going to waste a first round pick on you. They're really not.
No.
So I mean, being a running back, it's like they tell kids like if you're going to be in a baseball player, you should be a catcher or a left-handed pitcher. In football, you want to tell your kids don't be a running back because your career is going to be about 3 years and that's it.
That's true, and you can see that right now with Todd Gurley and everybody else. When they get to their third or fourth year, they're completely done.
Yeah, for Clemson has said he's coming back for his senior season, and to me, I think that if he was a fringe second-round pick this year, which is what they talked about, is he'd be in the middle of the second round was where his projected draft status. That's great, but because let's say he wins the Heisman Trophy, okay, which is not that far-fetched. Las Vegas has odds for him to win it right up there with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But if he does and he has a great season, guess what? He's still going to get drafted in the second round because he's basically taken a year off of his NFL career, and they don't want a 22-year-old running back.
Right.
They want you at 20 or 21.
Mm-hmm.
So in their minds, the NFL general managers are thinking, okay, this guy's may not, here's the year, and we don't get that year. So
right. I agree. Real quick before I let you go, what do you think about this new realignment for Major League Baseball? Yankees and Mets in the same division, and Pittsburgh and the Phillies playing in the same division, and your Atlanta Braves playing in the Central Division against other teams.
I am once again I will admit that I am a biased individual when it comes to baseball. It's the Braves and pretty much everybody else for me, but I like the Braves in the Central Division. There are a lot of teams in that division that are not that great. Kansas City Royals are terrible. Chicago White Sox are terrible. There's two teams in that division. There's maybe three that'll be able to, I think, really compete. The Braves, the Indians, and the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Those three teams should be in the mix to advance into the playoffs. But the NL teams have a huge disadvantage going into this set where there's going to be you're going to have your DH. From what I gather, everybody will have a DH, and that's a huge disadvantage because you're a National League team. You didn't spend that money to get that extra bat in your lineup, so you're going to have to. The American League teams have already done that, and so it's a huge disadvantage for the National League teams because they got to figure out who's going to be in the DH role. The Braves will probably go with Marcell Ozuna and put him on the bench because his fielding is a liability. But the reality is that if you're a National League team, they want to play, but look for the American League teams to score more runs and be more effective at the plate because they've all played with a DH before, and they're fine-tuned to have that in their lineup. The National League way of play, where you may have some guys that'll steal a base, like a Ronald Acuna Jr. or someone like that, is kind of antiquated when you have the DH there.
Exactly.
Braves and lots of other teams don't have a guy that can just go up there and they know he's going to hit 30 homers, and that's it. So I think the National League teams are going to be at a huge, huge disadvantage.
Well, with like the same thing with my team, I'm a big Met fan. We got Alonso playing first base. You put him as a DH during those American League games, and
do you have someone that can play first base? And then let's say that you have a guy that at first that you want Alonso to be the DH, that's great. But the reality is that you have a guy that can play first, and if he's good at picking balls or whatever, that's awesome. But is he a guy that's going to hit? You don't know because nobody in the National League has planned for this.
Right.
So I think what you'll see though is a lot of teams will take their backup catcher, and they may have their DH a little bit. So then you're kind of fine-tuning that guy and getting that guy more at bat. Like last year, the Braves had Brian McCann. This would have been perfect if he would not have retired because McCann could have just went up there and been the DH and then caught on the days that he was supposed to catch.
Right.
But now they don't have that. So.
Yeah. All right, Rob. Thanks for joining me tonight, bud. And if you need me to jump on your show anytime soon, my schedule is way cleared because I have nothing going on.
Your schedule is open. I feel you, sir. If you need anything from me, man, you can, of course, find me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. My podcast tonight, the Rob and Comrade Show, starts at 9:30. You can find that on Facebook Live and, of course, on YouTube at Carolina Jackpot.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on. We'll be right back with our good friend Adam Pohl from the voice of the Bowie Baysox. We'll talk some minor league baseball with him shortly here on Hermantown Sports Radio on Speaker.com. And also, we're live on YouTube. You can see my lovely face this evening. So, yes, I do need a shave. So, we'll be right back.
All right, Chris, we good?
Yeah, we're good, buddy. Thanks, bud.
All right, have a good night.
You too, bud. See ya. Radio and live on YouTube tonight. And coming up at 8:45, this gentleman, I printed this off my printer, Tom Clark, the commissioner of the PBA, will be joining us at 8:45. Trying to do the old 70s, like the Tonight Show there, Adam. You're like, hey, look, everybody.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I know.
I grew up with big bowlers, so that's exciting. I'll be tuned in.
Yeah, we'll be live on the radio and on YouTube. So we have Adam Pohl with us, the voice of the Bowie Baysox. So Adam, I know you did a lot of college basketball during the college basketball season, a little bit here and there for Northeast and for Mount St. Mary's. What happened on the March 11th? Tell the folks about what happened when you saw everything shut down.
What's funny is that I don't really I've learned how narrow my lifestyle is as far as entertainment with this shutdown, because I'm just kind of a sports nut. I mean, I work in sports full time, and then I go home and I watch sports. So one of the funny things about that is that it was a Wednesday night non-sports thing that I'm like completely crazy about. So I was all excited. I watched Survivor. And then, the show's over. I was like, oh, what a great show. And then I turned it over to watch a college basketball game. And the first thing I saw, because the ACC tournament was underway, and I saw the scroll saying that the NBA was suspended. And turned it over then to the other ESPN channel. And of course, they were talking about what had happened. And I think for us to work in the sports world, the reality of how desperate a situation, that this is for the working world, for everybody, and how it would affect everybody. I think it came a few weeks before it did for a lot of other people, when the stay-at-home order, things like that kicked into gear. So, we're in a very tough spot. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it, especially in the industry that I work full-time in, which is minor league baseball. And, it's hard to put that much of a positive spin on that aspect, but look, we're at home and we're happy and healthy in that regard, and hoping that we get good news in the near future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hope this time right now you will be broadcasting Baysox games, and you'll probably be a home game.
What's crazy about that, Chris, is that the life of minor league baseball. It's like I am a salesperson for the team as well. So this time of year is a very busy time with sales, and you're taking care of people selling things for later in the summer, and then you're also making sure that everybody's got what they want for this whole in the spring, and then you got to get ready and do these games, and then it rains for this time of year, so you're racing out to get on the tarp at 2 p.m. I mean, it's a crazy time of year, and that's why it's surreal. Because almost everybody in our industry is at home, and there's minimal work to be done right now until we know what the path forward is. So it's really bizarre. I mean, it's surreal for me, somebody that's been in the industry for almost 2 decades. To have it be almost the month of May, and to just be at home.
Yeah. So what do you hear? I know you're in the front. You're in the office, with the Baysox. What do you hear from Phil? And are they going to start with minor league baseball just like baseball is doing on July 4th, or are they just going to say sayonara? We'll be back next year.
Obviously, if we miss out on this season in total, it will be devastating for our industry in multiple ways. I would assume that going into 2021, you would see a reduction of employees that percentage-wise would be drastic. So obviously, everybody knows that, and they know that financially, we need to have a season. But it's not really about that. I mean, everybody financially needs, even the restaurants and such that are open for take. I mean, they need. Everybody's being affected by this. For us, it's a little bit more dire, but in that it's our entire business. But the reality is that we're in a position where we would probably need to play by July. We could potentially expand and extend the season through September and even into October if need be. But this is a nationwide deal. This is not going to be a thing where it's like, the Eastern League or the Baysox California League is not. So us, 0% of our revenue is through TV money. So 100% of our revenue is gleaned from ticket sales, people being in the ballpark, what's sold in the ballpark, and then advertising.
Mm-hmm.
But you're advertising towards the people that are in the ballpark. So if we're unable to have fans in the stadium, we're not gonna play.
Right.
And obviously right now, even though the reports from Major League Baseball is that they're looking to play, they're also looking to play with no fans in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not going to roll, to the minor league model. So it's a precarious situation.
Exactly. I feel like it's going to be. We got to wait and see. Like with baseball, just with 10 teams. You got the Mets and Yankees playing each other. As like rivals for the first time. And I think that'll be fun. I think that'll be fun. To decide, that'll be a different way of the Subway Series. It'll be like, can you see the Mets trying to beat the Yankees to go to the playoffs? That'd be more exciting instead of
doing it in an empty stadium. I mean, I
right.
remember 5 years ago the Orioles. We had the riots here in Baltimore. The Orioles played a game, an afternoon game in front of a completely empty Camden Yards, and everybody said that this is the only time we'll ever see this, and this is bizarre. It was incredibly bizarre. There's been so many stories, articles, and things written about, just a random mid-regular season game between the Orioles and Chicago White Sox.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was actually 5 years ago, almost to the date. And now here we are looking at a future in Major League Baseball in which, if they're able to play in the majority of these cities, it's going to be empty stadiums all year long.
Right.
More than likely. You never know; things could change. But it's going to be. And for me personally, some people would say, "Well, why did you play?" But I want to see some games. If it is possible, there's so much financially on the line for both the players and the owners. So if they have to themselves during a 3 or 4 month period, or at least for the first month or two of it, I think that I think it's going to happen. But all in all, it's it's not the most important thing, and we as a society have to see if it's prudent to do so, because what happens when one player or one athletic trainer gets this? And of course, what we're learning in the last week via studies in New York and California is that far more people have had COVID-19 than what is expected. I mean, what they're saying right now is 1 million people in the United States have had it, and 3 million in the world. But I mean, there was an antibody test that went out in New York in which they said 13% of people in New York State possibly have had this. I mean, that's that's an incredible number. And that means two things. That means, number one, that the social distancing we're doing, it's saving our hospitals and such, but it's not going to eradicate the virus, which is what we need to be able to put people in seats and such. And like a much lower percentage of people are perishing that they have this, because so many people have it that don't even know they have it. It's the scariest thing of this entire ordeal. So we're going to have better testing, ramped up testing, and testing that is almost, you take this test and you know almost immediately, whether you have it or not, almost like if a COVID test is like a pregnancy test. That's what we need as a society, really, to start moving forward, because there are so many people that are asymptomatic that have this.
Right, exactly. Well, Adam, thanks for coming on. I know real quick. You have a podcast you do with the lady who does the public address announcing down there.
Yes,
you guys,
we do.
Talk about that real quick.
So basically, we're doing a quarantine show here with the Baysox. Adrian and I, we're really excited about it. So you can follow follow the Baysox on Facebook or Instagram, and every Tuesday and Thursday night we have a new show that pops up. We're talking to current and former Baysox.
Folks, that's Adam Pohl, the voice of the Bowie Baysox, and we'll talk to him hopefully maybe the next time with a preview of a baseball game.
I love it. Thank you, Chris.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. We'll be right back with the the commissioner of the Professional Bowlers Tour, Tom Clark, will join us in 1 minute right here on FM Sports Radio. All right, let me turn the TV sign off. All right, Adam, thanks, man. Actually on YouTube tonight. We're trying to do both radio and TV. Tom Clark, the commissioner of the Professional Bowlers Tour, was joining us. We have a nice little picture I printed out on my printer today of you and Marshall Holman and Mark Roth. And what was that?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, was that taken this year or last year?
You know, I'm not exactly sure which one that is, but I'm guessing it was a couple of years ago. And you know, because we've done the Mark Roth, Marshall Holman doubles tournament for about the last 5 or 6 years, and so it's a great chance to get those guys together. And they were heroes of mine, you know, growing up, and so to have them part of the PBA now is really a thrill. To have them as friends is a thrill.
Yeah.
But Mark has had a rough year or two with health. He was able to come to the PBA League last year, if you remember.
Right.
It was the Mark Roth MVP award, and he got to award that to Wes Malott last year at the league. But that's the last time that we've seen him because he had another setback, and he's been, you know, basically needing a lot of care. But he's a real fighter, so I assume he'll be back out at some point. He's getting better.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a chance to talk to him on the phone years ago, and he asked me about my bowling balls. I'm like, well, I have an old rubber ball and an old plastic ball. He goes, does it still work? I was like, yeah, I think I can still use it. He goes, don't go out and buy all these new bowling balls and stick to what you're doing. But if I want to bowl on the tour, I have to get the new bowling balls. So it's like, yeah, exactly. Well, today you went on Facebook with Flow Bowling to talk about the PBA League. You guys are going to do a virtual draft like everybody else is doing. That's on May 17th, right, at 7 o'clock?
Yeah. I'm excited about it. You know, we originally, the draft was supposed to be March 15th at the World Series of Bowling, and that was actually the last event that we did, the World Championship. And we were one of the last sports to still have live action on March 15th. If you remember, the whole Rudy Gobert situation with the NBA was on March 11th. And the NBA stopped that day. But we had live action on March 15th, but we couldn't do the draft. People had to leave town, and we couldn't get the managers into town. And then Las Vegas actually shut down about 2 days later.
Wow.
And so, you know, we've just been saying, okay, when can we have a virtual draft? And May 17th is going to be it. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll see how we have 10 teams now instead of 8. We have 2 new teams. And so we'll be able to. And Marshall, speaking of Marshall Holman, he's actually a manager of the new team in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And the name of that team was revealed today. They're the Brew City Ballers.
Wow.
And, Marshall's the manager, so they'll be picking their entire team.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a coin flip for the first pick between the two expansion teams, Milwaukee and Las Vegas. And Las Vegas is managed by Emleto Monticelli.
Okay.
So, you're going to have Marshall against Emleto on a coin toss, and the winner will get the first pick. And if you look at the available players, which is on PBA.com, Sean Rash is the top-ranked player that's available, that's draftable. And then there's a lot of other great players, Frankie LaVoie, and Nick Allen, and AJ Johnson.
Yeah, I know as a kid they used to bowl each other a lot on TV, and I think Marshall had his number a couple times.
Yeah, I tell you what, when Emleto first started, and he had such natural talent, but he learned, refined it, practiced, ran every day, probably the best shaped player on tour, and eventually became really the greatest international player of all time, and first international player to win Player of the Year, and the first one to go into the Hall of Fame. And Mika, followed in his footsteps. He'd probably be right there with him now, and he's also in the Hall of Fame now. But I think there's another international player named Belbo who's going to pass the ball. So I think he'll eventually be the all-timer because he already has 5 Player of the Year award. It looks like they'll win a 6th this year. So
yeah. I don't know that guy. I never met that guy. No.
What a couple of years. He's had a lot of good years, but the last couple have been off the charts, and we really can't even make it up what he's been able to accomplish. So
yeah, that's true. Well, with the before this all went down, you guys were supposed to do the PBA playoff. Is that going to be canceled, or is that going to be moved to like October, or what?
Yeah, well, that's the hope. We had finished most of it weren't completed, and the Masters wasn't completed, and so those 4, what we're if everything works out, the best case scenario will be we'll move those events to the fall. We'll make room, in a really busy schedule if everybody's moving to the fall with their action in so many different sports. Well, Fox will let us know where we'll fit in there. We'll move those events there, have a 2 points list through the Masters and through those World Series events, and then have the top 24 for the playoffs and complete the playoffs in the fall-winter. Like, hopefully by the beginning of December, we have a champion in the PBA playoffs. And, that's if everything goes to plan. And as you know, every minute something changes in the world. So you really don't know, but that's our hope.
Yeah. Well, I see you I see you on Facebook a lot. You and your son playing a lot of table tennis. Who's winning that tournament?
He's gotten too good, and he's pretty smart in that he always goes to my weakness, which is basically my backhand. So I'm playing backhand all the time, and then once in a while, give me a chance on the forehand, and then I blow it. So those are the key shots of any match. But it's a lot. But I feel bad for kids like him. He's in 11th grade now, and all his friends, and they're all kind of stuck home. And the most fun he can have is playing ping pong with his dad. So. But I enjoy it, and we actually started playing darts. I got a nice dart board too, so we've been playing some darts. And, ping pong's great, and it's definitely. And we always talk about wanting to get bowling in the Olympics, but ping pong is in the Olympics. So maybe if I keep at it, I'll make Team USA someday.
Hey, we just have the Clark Olympics, and put it in September. We don't need the Olympics. We just go to your house.
Just live stream darts, ping pong, billiards. We'll play some video games. We'll play PBA Pro Bowling on that video game on Xbox, and we'll play a little one-on-one hoops in the driveway. That's my Olympics.
Yeah. So, one last question to ask you. I know you're the commissioner of the league. What was your bowling average growing up as a youth? Mine was not the greatest. I think I was like 151 or something, or not the greatest. But I did have some good games. But what was your average?
Well, I was a pretty competitive bowler growing up, and I bowled in junior traveling leagues. And when I was a kid, before college, I was around 195, 190, and that was when that was a little bit. This was, I'm getting old now. I mean, this was back in the early 80s. and those scores meant a little bit more than they do now.
Right.
And then I bowled in college and went to school, specifically bowl and bowled on the national level and won some big events and averaged over 200. And I still bowl. I bowl every Wednesday night. I was just in a group chat with my team because we would be bowling tonight. And since we haven't been able to bowl the last 6 weeks because of this pandemic, we just stay in touch through a group chat and talk about the pizza and the beer we'd be having tonight and the fun we'd be having. So I still average about 205, which in 1983 was probably worth about 185.
Wow, that's awesome.
But I love bowling. I really miss throwing the ball. If you saw my Facebook and saw me playing ping pong, you may have actually seen me throwing the bowling ball down the street because I actually went outside and bowled on my street out front because I just missed the idea of letting the ball off my hand, and I just wanted to throw it.
Yeah.
And so I went out there with a beat up bowling ball and threw some ball.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing about bowling is that people that love it, it's in their DNA. They're going to want to bowl the rest of their life, and this is a real big setback for the whole industry, having all of our bowling centers shut down for so long. But I know that it'll come back when we get the chance because people that love bowling really, really love bowling, and they'll rush back out to the center as soon as they open back up.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do the same thing when we get out of this quarantine thing. I'm going to run to the bowling alley down the street and bowl some games and feel back to what I was supposed to be.
Love to hear it. Take it all out on those pins.
Oh yeah, this is sitting.
The whole idea.
Yeah, all that stuff. Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on, and you will let everybody know in the world how the PBA is going to be, finishing up the 2020 season, and and the draft is May 17th on Flow Bowling, and hopefully we'll tune in and see who's going where.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I really look forward to that, and the players really, really want to be a part of that PBA league. It's so much fun to be on the team. So you've got about 70 guys who are vying for, more around 25 positions, and so it's a pretty intense night, but it's a lot of fun, and it gives us a chance to look forward to the season. So looking forward to that draft. I really appreciate it.
Exactly. Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on, and folks, thanks for listening to us tonight here on Speaker.com and also on YouTube live, and we'll try to catch up with you guys in 2 weeks, and have a great night. All right, Tom. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your time.